Don't shoot what it looks like, shoot what it feels like. And that is supposedly from David Allen Harvey, but we could probably argue about who made it up. I think I did, maybe Ansel Adams, maybe my guest Jen, but it's worth remembering. And then I also love the quote on my guest's website, which is a dog is the only thing on earth that loves you more than he loves himself. And that's by Josh Billings. So, welcome again to the Profitable Photographer. Today, besides smart marketing and all kinds of cool stuff, my guest, Jen Hillenga, is going to be talking about dogs, how to photograph them, all kinds of other cool stuff. So, hi, Jen.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me. It's wonderful to be here. Happy to
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. So, who is this person? Well, she's a world-renowned portrait photographer, designer, and educator. She was in Iowa, but now she's in New York City, and she has 25 years of experience. She's a PPA Master Craftsman, a, a Whippy print judge, WPPI, for 8 years. She's been in magazines, including Boston People, and this month, the PPA magazine. And how did she get where she is? Well, she says that after falling in love with photographing dogs because she's got her own rescue pups, Roscoe and Nala, she launched her pet photography business in 2021 and built it to be very profitable through smart networking and referrals. And I want to learn more about that. She has the ability to connect with every dog she photographs and creates timeless, one of a kind works of art that really capture that bond between pets and people. If you go to her website, you're going to be pretty gobsmacked and also, for me, envious because working in New York, the backgrounds, the locations, and like me, she lets the environment be as much the start, this is my opinion, as the pets, although the pets, are the ones that shine the most. But you got to go to her website. So thank you, Jen, for saying yes to being on this show.
Absolutely.
Let's see. First question. Just in a nutshell, we were talking before we started recording about how you went from the Iowa studio, big deal, lots of stuff going on, teaching everywhere, to a big shift and where you are now. So let's have
Sure.
you share that
Give you a little bit
story
of
with
my history. So I actually grew up in Iowa on a pig farm in the middle of nowhere, and
me.
I worked for two different studios in Iowa, and then I actually moved to Minneapolis,
Mm,
and that's where I worked for another studio in Minneapolis, and that's where I started my first studio. Was the suburbs, south suburbs of the Minneapolis area, and I at the height of what we did. Right before I crashed and burned and had a midlife crisis and left and moved to New York, I had a 6,000 square foot studio with up to 10 employees and a business partner. And I burned out really hard. I had my regular portrait photography studio that was doing wedding, children, high school senior. I used to say if it had two eyes and moves, I photographed it. So we
mhm.
did everything because it was Minnesota, so things were very, very seasonal. You know, everybody hibernated in the winter, and all of the work that I did about 350 sessions would be between June and November. Um, as the only photographer. I also had a secondary company that sold education and templates and information to photographers all over the world. So I had these two companies and had kind of fallen into that whole the old school idea that it had to be bigger and better and
Right.
more in order for it to be successful. Kind of that Gary V mentality of like, build it bigger, build it more. And I woke up one day and it was like I'd spent my 20s and 30s building this business, but I hadn't built a life. And
Mhm.
I was burned out, hated everything, hoped for rain so that things would cancel. uh, was theoretically in my late 30s and mid to late 30s and single, but I had all these mouths to feed and the weight of the world was on my shoulders. And my business partner had reached kind of the same conclusion in her life that she didn't really want to do it anymore either. And we decided on really great terms that we were going to change our lives and sold the internet company, the Jen's Fabulous Stuff company, to a business in New York. And they hired me with my company to be creative director of the print lab.
Mm,
So I left. I blew up my life and left and moved to New York and was creative director of the lab for 6.5 years.
mm,
And then COVID hit, and I think we all decided who we wanted to be and what was
right.
important and what we wanted to do. And I just could not. They sent me home to work with my dogs that I adopted when I moved to New York. And I just could not imagine going back to the office and going back to that kind of environment. And I thought, you know, it's time to stop directing creative and go back to being creative. But
Mhm.
when I come back to photography this time, I'm going to do it in a way that resonates. I'm going to do it in a way that I want. I'm too old to do anything I don't want to do anymore. I don't want to
Mm.
do it for other people. I don't want to feed employees. I don't want the overhead. And the older I get, the more I like dogs and the less I like people. So if I'm going to go back to photography and back to being creative, I'm only going to photograph dogs and their people. If I have to people, I want it to be dog people because they're generally just chill. And I'm not going to have all the overhead and all the employees. So I started this in uh, kind of started it in February of 2021, decided the first week of February in 2021, full pandemic, that I was going to just be a dog photographer. And by February 20th, I had launched the Instagram with two full swipes and had 20 sessions booked,
Wow.
and then transitioned out of my corporate creative director role and was full time with it by June 20th of that next summer. So did the week nights and weekends until June, and then went full time with it in June and broke six figures first year.
Yay. So before I dive in with you to how the heck you did that, I'd like to know if you could visualize a redo of what you had in a way that would not have burned you out. I mean, I know everything is in divine purpose and you're where you're
Right.
supposed to be. For people who maybe are wanting that bigger studio, maybe they need some advice from you on what not to do, because
Sure.
it might be their passion to manage a thriving, busy photography
Sure.
studio. So some thoughts on that of what you wish you could have a do-over, what you
Well,
advise
I,
people not to
I
do.
think you hit it on the head of it might be their passion. It was never mine. And I think that is the most important thing to remember. So, whether or not you want to be a small business or whether or not you want to go after world domination and have all of the overhead and all of the things, and I think the most important thing is to be true to what you actually want. And in that process, I lost sight of that. I never actually wanted to have the big studio and the
Oh,
business to manage and all of that. It kind of just became a avalanche that I didn't know how to pull back. And it was not in tune with who I actually was, but I think I was too young at the time to know who I was and
okay.
what I actually wanted. So I think my advice is when I started this new dog photography business, I started with a definition of who I was, what I wanted to provide, and what I wanted my business to be, and laid out that framework And that's actually where the name of the company came from, was by laying out a motto for what I wanted the company to be. So it's the ways of the dog. And I wrote this mission statement about how I wanted to appreciate life in the same way that a dog does, being in the moment, being loyal to your people, starting no drama, but taking no ish. Uh, um, and I laid that out, and it's right on the main website banner. And that's how I started. And so I think all of those business models are valid, and I've been all of them. I've been home based, I've been location based, I've been through 6 different studio locations, big, small, everywhere in between. And those are all valid choices. But I think it's just important to define your business and figure out who you are and who your client is and who you want to be, and then stick to that, but being open to change.
Okay.
So as you age and as your creativity changes and stages of life, don't be afraid to change that model if it no longer serves you. For people that are looking for a bigger business and things like that, I'd say that delegation without micromanaging is
Mm,
important. So figuring out where are your bottlenecks and what are the things that you actually don't need to be handling yourself. Like maybe you don't need to be handling every client email. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't want to do your sales. Maybe you have a problem getting things out the door in terms of shipping. Like currently with the new business model, I have figured out that I like the client contact,
hmm
but I don't want to do things like shipping. So the one tiny employee friend that I have comes and puts the orders together and gets them out, because I can't imagine going to a New York City post office ever again. I
Yeah.
can't do it. So just what are your pain points,
Uh-huh.
and delegating to those pain points, and then hiring the personality of somebody that you think is good with your clients and has a great personality that you can work with, and then training the job. But making sure that anybody that you hire, it's personality first, because a
Got it.
lot of these things but I just hired people that I thought could handle the job, and then I let them do the job and
Got it.
don't micromanage. So if you get in the weeds with all, control, not delegating,
Mm,
controlling what your employee's doing, controlling you're gonna be out of control and feel stressed anyway. Like,
yeah.
the best part about it is train the job really well and then let people do it.
Yes. One of my guests, and I'm sorry I can't pull up him right away in my mind, the name. So you have to listen to all of them if people are
It
like, "Who
happens.
that
It
is."
happens.
Um, he has created a big business and he has more time in life. He's somebody that
Mhm.
does amazing creative work personally, has won, like you, has won umpteen awards um, with PPA and other places.
Sure.
And for him, his big studio is what gives him the freedom because he intentionally built it so that he had the life. And I had never
Yeah.
thought of that. I always chose to be what you do now because I didn't want my time to be all managing and I
Right.
thought I'd lose
But
connection
there's a
with
financial
photography.
trade-off that
Yeah.
comes with that as well. So, like, one of the reasons that I chose to scale back and do a smaller model is I've also realized that I'm super ADHD and kind of a chatty introvert. Like I will talk to anybody who talks to me, but I don't want to be surrounded by people. Again, it's about knowing yourself. But there's a financial trade-off to having more employees and things like that. Like I think it was interesting for me once I realized at the end when I was leaving, the year before that, we had done over $1 million in sales. But I personally wasn't making any more money than we were when we were doing $350,000 in
Mhm.
sales, because it was going to overhead and employees and whatever. And there's always a trade-off. Like, great, maybe somebody's doing all the things that you don't want to do, but you have to pay for that. So then in reverse, do you have to shoot more and make more money, at X amount of things in order to pay for those employees or to pay for that space? So currently, I have decided that, or you charge more or whatever. There's just a balance that you need to strike to whatever you want to be. And there's a way to strike that, whether your business is big or whether your business is small. And it's all a personal choice. And the joy is you can make all those decisions for yourself.
Right. Absolutely. I love the idea of thinking about how you want to live, what your life wants to be like. If I
Right.
could go back in time in my 40 years, I would have figured out a way sooner to do even less weddings so I had more time. Eventually, I limited it to three a month, but that still pretty much ruins
That's
all but
crazy.
one
Yeah.
weekend. And I used to have social groups and things, but I wouldn't be invited to things anymore because people were like, oh, she's probably at a wedding. So, but I never wanted to be a manager. I wanted to be a photographer. So I'm like you. I had somebody that would come in maybe 2 days a week,
Hmm.
3 hours a day or so to do the things you're talking about, to frame, because I make good income selling frames that I install, and then the people come and pick everything up. But I don't want to open those boxes. I don't want to break down the
Right.
cardboard. I don't want to data enter all my clients. And now with social media, there's more that I would use somebody for. So I love that you're having the kind of business and success you want with this simple model. It's all workable if we plan it, like you said, make that list of what you want your life to be like.
Hmm.
And
If you're
then,
doing the right marketing on the back end, you really can create whatever life you want to have. Like if you are hustling and you're getting people in the door, I've also found that clients will, and people in general will treat you how you allow them to treat you
mhm,
and do what policies, they'll fall in line with whatever policies you put out because they just want what you have. So
right.
you do get to define, like, I don't photograph on Mondays. That's just not an option.
Mhm,
Like, now, currently, I will offer sessions every day except a Monday. Now, I might start scaling that back and not doing one weekend a month, but also I only photograph in the mornings and I only do a maximum of 3 sessions a day ever, unless I'm doing a mini session day. And so generally, I'm photographing maybe 5 times a week, one session in the mornings. And I don't ever do sessions in the afternoon, even if, honestly, even if somebody asks for it without charging them. I mean, I could maybe be convinced, but it would be an extra cost.
yeah,
So, like, your clients really will fall in line with whatever business model you want to create and whatever life you want to create. And if that meant that I only photographed Monday through Friday, if you have marketed correctly and you're good enough, people just want what you do and they'll figure out how to make it happen.
right. So I love what you're saying, that people really are wanting us, that that's what we're selling, that it's not our work, even if our work is not super great, but
Right.
it's good enough to be sellable if we do all those other things so that people are just delighted to have us be the one that shows up, that, we get on the phone with, that
Yeah.
we build a relationship with. That is, to me, the heart of the kind of business I want.
Yeah. If you have created a need and people are really seeking out your work, which you can create on multiple levels.
Hmm.
If you are the one people are talking about and you are the one that they need to go to, then they will figure out how to make it work. Just like, if you have an appointment with the doctor and it's during work week, you'll figure out how to go. Like,
Right,
if you want to go shopping at X boutique, but they're only open 3 days a week in the afternoons, you're going to figure out how to go there.
right,
Like, if you have created a need for a client to seek out your services, And that's the hard part, and that's the thing that really matters is, the hustle to figure out how do you become important to your client base.
Mm. So that's a nice lead into what I'd love to.
See what I did there? I
Yeah,
segue. Yes.
awesome. Um, so I'm sure people listening would love to know how you became so profitable so quickly.
Mhm.
And as I mentioned, my listeners have said that they love when they get action steps. So,
Sure.
um, well, take it away, Miss Jen.
Well, everything in terms of business success, it has multiple layers, right? So again, going back to the basics and how you're setting your business up, I think the first step to being profitable obviously is pricing. Like what can your market bear? And how are you profitable? What is your break even point and how do you set your prices according to be profitable? What is your region? Because what makes me profitable in New York City is not what would have made me profitable where I grew up in the middle of the Midwest, in the middle of nowhere. Like,
Okay.
and also what I can charge. That is a completely different story. What are New Yorkers willing to pay, used to pay? That sort of thing is different here than where it's going to be anywhere else. And it's one of the harder questions I get asked as an educator is how do I price my work? Well, I can't answer that for you. I don't know where you live. I don't know what your market can bear. I don't know what your competition is doing. I don't know where your skill set is. What I can tell you is that you need to figure out your break even point. You need to figure out what you need to make in order to be comfortable and then work your way backwards, right?
Mhm.
So if I need to make it to live life in New York City a basis of $150,000 a year, great. Start there. All right, now how many clients do I need to get at what average to get that minus my cost of goods? And okay, if my number is 150,000, or sorry, 150 dogs a year at $1,000 because I'm being conservative on what I think people will buy. What are the products that they're going to purchase to get them there? Is that prints? Is it digitals? What's the combination? What do people in your area want? Like, I don't sell wall portraits hardly ever because New Yorkers don't have the wall space. So there's so many layers to figure out this for yourself. But these are things that you really have to do before you just open up and say, I'm going to be a photographer. Here's an 8 by 10 for $75 or whatever. It's like, okay, but does that work? Do people want an 8 by 10? Is that the price point that's going to be profitable? There's all of these different layers that unfortunately nobody can tell you what those are for your business. And then
Okay,
there's that.
so
Yeah.
step one is get your pricing so that you can reach your goals. And
Step
that's
one is doing the research
yeah,
of where your market is, who your competition is, what people are used to paying, where do they spend their
okay.
time and their money, all of those sorts of things, and then setting your pricing according to what you need to make and how many people you think people or dogs or whatever you photograph, how many you realistically think you can get in the door in order to make that number and be comfortable in life.
Right. So a basic business plan is
Mhm.
when I coach people, you're saying exactly what I say. I had a podcast episode about pricing a couple of weeks ago. It was more about when you reveal it, but I did talk about how you set some pricing, and it's just what you do. And then we also look at um, in a year, how many clients do you want, and what kind of work do you want, and what average dollars do you need to reach your goal.
Sure.
And then we do a 3 year and a 5 year. So it's a simple business plan based on what I'm hearing, based on research.
Mhm.
Now,
I
uh,
would also really suggest that people figure out that research and figure out what their pricing should be, even if they're not comfortable charging it right away.
yes.
So when I started my first portrait studio, I did all the research in the area to figure out, and honestly, there's a whole other layer of perceived value. So I did the research to figure out who is the most expensive photographer in my area, and I made sure I was $10 more expensive.
Oh, I like that.
Because, for instance, if you go out and you buy a t-shirt and you buy a t-shirt from, let's say, Macy's, and then you buy the same t-shirt from Target and you spend $80 on the Macy's one and $25 on the Target one, which one do you wear out on the special occasion? Which one do you dry clean versus leave on the bedroom floor? Like when you invest money in something, you perceive it as a higher value. So even if you're just starting out and you don't have any confidence yet, you don't want to spend 3 to 5 years getting to the place where you're profitable.
Hmm.
You want to train clients of this is what you should be paying and this is what I'm worth, but I'm portfolio building. So you know what? I'm going to give you a 20% discount or whatever. So even if you're not um, emotionally at your price point isn't about emotion. Your price point is about profitability and what you're worth. And then if your emotions and your confidence are like, okay, but I'm just shooting friends and family right now, I'm just photographing to build a portfolio. Well, that's great. You can show an invoice of this is what it would cost you, and I've given you 50% off. So this, whatever. But you're establishing that perceived value of what you're supposed to be doing instead of spending 3 to 5 years and irritating clients along the way because you're gradually changing prices.
Right. That makes so much sense. So, how did you magically, and I know it wasn't magic, I know it was working smart. How did you so quickly get these clients? What's you,
Networking, 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 and then more networking, and then more glad handing, and then more freebies. I am going to be the only person on that's educating that has no problem saying I work for free. Um, that's been a big topic of discussion. And there's so many people that get up on a stage or on a podcast and say, never work for free, blah, blah, blah. But I am 100% willing to give up an hour on a Thursday morning in order to get somebody in front of my camera. So
hmm
I built every portrait business, whether it's people or pets, I have built by giving away session fees and an 8 by 10 print to
hmm
get somebody in front of my camera because I know that if you're in front of my camera, you will buy more than one image.
Right.
So I also changed my mindset into this new business on my relationship to my clients purchasing and my relationship to money in general and my relationship to the metrics of success from every session. So I think back when I was burned out, one of the reasons was I got into this headspace of thinking that if that client didn't spend X amount of money, and it was true because I had too much overhead and, it was crazy. So if that client didn't spend $1,500 to $2,000, then I had failed and that session was worth nothing.
Mm,
And I have really changed my mind set around the metrics for success of each session, especially when you're building a business. So if you are not busy and your calendar's empty, I mean, why not get somebody in front of your camera by any means necessary, right? So that session has every, I don't have an unsuccessful session because that session will either be content for my website or my Instagram that I am building. It will be a sale or it will be a learning experience in some way. Like if you take the dollar amount out of it and you just go into every session is a success for these multiple reasons, um, it takes away a lot of like those weird emotions that we have around building a business and about what we should be doing. So when you're building, you need the Instagram to grow. You need people seeing you photographing. People are attracted to businesses that they see are busy.
mm,
So if you are just sitting back and you're projecting that you're desperate or that you're not busy or that you're not working.
Mhm.
Like clients are like bees and dogs. They smell fear. Like you have to be projecting that you are in demand, that you love what you do, and that your clients are having a great time, and that you are busy, and people are attracted to that. So I'll give away a session so that I am working, so that people see that, so that I have things to post.
So how do you find people to
Yep.
give things away?
So networking. When I'm working, when I was building the dog photography business, and most people who are in dog photography will tell you that, they worked with rescues quite a bit.
Mhm.
And if all things are considered equal, clients are will gravitate toward people who have their same values and their same aesthetic. So the people who gravitate toward me are deeply ingrained in dog community in New York and rescue community in New York. And I started getting access to those people by networking with rescues, offering my services to help them,
Mhm.
and then showing my skills to that community, right?
Mhm.
So I did a ton of photographing adoptable dogs that maybe were, I had a project called Hard to Home. So it was dogs with medical issues, older dogs, pit bulls and breeds that don't get adopted as quickly as small dogs and puppies in New York. So I would feature those dogs, and they would use those images on their website and then on Pet Finder and things like that to get the dog adopted more quickly. I did a ton of fundraising events for the rescues. So I did a ton of photo booths. At all of the rescues have like one in particular that I work with is Korean Canine Rescue, and it's hard to talk about, but they rescue dogs from the Korean meat trade
Mm.
and bring them to New York and adopt them out. So they have
Wow.
several fundraising events throughout the year. So they would have me come and set up a photo booth and do a background and photograph dogs that and their humans that would come to the event. I've done that on New York City, Brooklyn open streets where they just close down a street and they have like a street fair kind of thing, community events. I'll just do a photo booth. People can bring their dog in. Generally, I will charge either I will do it free with the organization that's having the event just to network it and get access to those crowds of people, or I will do it as a fundraising event for the rescue, meaning that they'll charge anywhere from $25 to $50 to have their dog's photo taken, and then they get the images for free. The great part about that, again, if since I've changed my mindset on the success, is not only are they having me work with their dog, I'm raising money for a rescue, so that builds goodwill, but they're also posting all those images out on
Mm.
all their dog's social media. And anybody who's got an Instagram account for their dog, they're my qualified client. So it's always a win-win with all these different layers of success. Um, and so first couple years, I was probably getting 60 to 70% of my clients just from those sorts of events,
Mm.
just for helping to fundraise with rescues. Now I work with four different rescues and the city shelter for different things. I don't have to do nearly as much um, of those free days.
Mhm.
So I've switched gears. So now, for instance, I will do mini session days that are dedicated to rescue fundraising. So when you did a photo booth, it was like you kind of had to. It was kind of on spec. So you didn't know if people were going to come. They usually did, especially as it gained traction and people started coming for the photo booth. But you didn't know how much money you were going to raise for the rescue. It could be, $10 a piece and you might raise a couple $100, or it could be $100 a piece and you'd raise like a couple thousand. Now I offer part of the session fee for my mini sessions will go to rescue.
Mm.
And that means it's a higher fee, it's guaranteed. Like for instance, my upcoming Valentine's Day mini sessions, I'm only offering 16. It's a limited edition session. It'll be 2 days, but the rescue is getting $50 from the session fee. And so they're guaranteed they know what they're getting. But honestly, they also don't have to do any of the work except to post it on their social media. So I am trading off of the social media connections as well of all of these rescues. People who have bigger social media accounts than I do and can reach more people who are in my qualified audience.
Hmm.
That was
So,
a lot. It was a big run-on sentence of all the things.
yeah. So, um, normally when I hear the word networking, I think about, oh, go to meetings and sit and give your like spiel and make friends. But what I'm hearing is that your biggest idea of networking is specific places and things and activities that have the target rich environment for you, not just a random, uh,
Correct.
uh, what's it called when there's a city, community, I don't know, not remembering it, but oh, no,
Chamber of Commerce.
download. Anyway,
Chamber of Commerce kind of thing.
that's it. That's
Hmm.
it. Ding, ding, ding. That you're
Right.
like boots on the ground,
Well,
but also
again,
social. You're not
sure.
just putting a bunch of stuff on social media, showing up to Chamber of Commerce or different things. You're
Right.
working, you're
Well,
connecting,
the
you're
best
making a
way to
difference.
put your work in front of qualified people is to do the work in front of qualified people.
Yeah,
So, but also figuring out, okay, what networking means is putting your skills in front of an audience who needs or wants those skills,
yeah,
right? So, I would go to a chamber of commerce, and I've done all of that in the past if I wanted to do headshots or if
right.
I wanted to do photography for real estate or commercial work, because a chamber of commerce are business people. And so if you're going to put your skills in front of business people who may need those skills, they have to be business related. So again, doing the research of who is my client? Where can I best put my skills in front of that client? And that's either going to be by having them witness me photographing and working with their animal or seeing the social media of me doing those sorts of things. That's how I put my skills in front of that pre-qualified client.
I love that. Is I think a lot of people think that the way to market is just all social media. And so the people that get out of the chair and get in their car and get their camera warmed up and go do things has an edge on people that are just trying to do all the online work.
I also think that people have a self-destructive fallacy on what they think networking means, and they
Ooh,
think of themselves as an introvert, or I don't like to be around people. I don't like to brag. I don't like to put myself in front of people. I don't like public speaking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these gates that they put up to keep themselves from success because of who they think they are and what they think networking means. Networking just means putting your skills in front of an audience that is going to need and want those skills. And you can choose, and once again, you get to write the book. You can choose how you do that. But if you're not somebody who wants to get in front of a Toastmakers or a Chamber of Commerce and just talk about what you do, figure out a way that you can give back in your community by using your skills. Because it's really about finding your community and having them witness in some way what it is that you can do. And everybody can do that.
yeah, absolutely. I love it. Love it, love it. In every niche, that's valid.
Mhm.
Anything else on marketing before I ask you a
Oh
little
gosh, so many
dog
marketing things.
tips?
Um, when I was, because I'm assuming your audience is not mostly pet photographers, so I will
I
throw
have no
in,
idea. It's
I
it's
love it.
worldwide, 110 countries,
I
a
love that.
lot of pet photographers,
Great.
but a lot
Um,
of everything.
there was this marketing thing that we did very early on for my first studio. And I always like to mention it because even if the concept has changed, because this was 20 some years ago, like 2004. So, oh my gosh, I just turned 50 and I've been doing this since I was in college. So it's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so we called it sphere marketing. And I think it might be that you have to tweak it a little bit in order for it to work for you and this day and age, but the concept is still the same. And it is networking and it is marketing and all this. But basically, what we did is, and this was my first portrait studio. So we were photographing families and children, etc. But we came up with 25 names of our friends and family or people from the chamber or people that we had identified in the community that were movers and shakers, that were connectors. And we identified those people and we offered them a free session and a free 8 by 10 for a list. And at that time, it was a physical list of actual addresses that can change. Maybe now it's Instagram accounts, maybe it's emails, maybe it's whatever. Doesn't the semantics of it don't matter. But we at that time we asked for actual names and addresses of 25 of their friends and family that they thought would also be interested in using me for photography. So, with the first 25 people that we identified, I went and I photographed their family, their children, whatever it was. Doesn't work so well with weddings. You don't want to be doing that for free.
Yeah, I know.
But regular portrait sessions, we photographed, let's say, their children. And from their session, we created a greeting card because there's something magical about getting something in the mail. And with their images, let's say the kids' names were like Sam and Max, we'd say, Sam and Max just had a wonderful time being photographed by whatever photography company you are, and they invite you to experience the same thing. Please use this card for a free session fee to blah, blah, blah. And that way it looked like it was coming from the client. And we did 25 because at that time, and still today, 25 was the minimum number of greeting cards I could order from the lab. So we were sending out this 25. And then we had a curated, qualified list because birds of a feather flock together. So if these were qualified people, most likely their friends and family were also going to be pre-qualified. They're going to be the same, socioeconomic. They're going to be the same sort of people. They're going to be connectors. They're going to be people that these curated clients believe are going to be good for you. So that's how we started our marketing list rather than buying a list or whatever. We had this curated, pre-qualified list of a couple hundred, it's like over 500 names and addresses because
Wow.
25 times 25 instead of just shooting in the dark.
Mhm.
So the basic concept of that is identifying a group of pre-qualified, figuring out who they also are connected to, and utilizing their session in order to connect to their sphere as well. So whether that now happens on social media or they can do a giveaway. So now I do a lot of things with dog influencers where we'll do giveaways where they will gift a session in an 8 by 10 to somebody who wins the contest as long as they follow me and they follow them and that they put it on their social media and that they comment and they post about it because it's getting your work in front of a pre-qualified audience in different ways. So there's a lot of ways that you can take that concept. But again, it's just visibility and showing off your skills and the experience to a qualified audience.
I can hear people's minds being blown,
Yeah,
and also some objections like
sure.
people don't do that anymore. People don't give out information anymore. But we work with the concept in a
Right.
way
Well,
that
like I said, you can
is
do
good.
it as a giveaway to somebody who's got a good Instagram. It's leveraging somebody else's audience,
Right.
whoever that is, whether it's a business, whether it's a rescue, whether it's somebody who's got a good social media audience, just whether it's somebody who's got a physical connection of amazing friend group or a connected family. It's how do I get my skills and what the product that I have to offer in front of an audience that has not yet seen me. So
Hmm.
that's just the base concept. And there's a million different ways that you can do it, but it's just, we call it sphere marketing because it is creating a sphere of influence that you're putting your skills in front of.
I love that. I love that. Wow. So my mind's blown with that as well. All right. So we have just a little time. Do you have just a couple of little tips about photographing dogs for people that uh, like me? I like dogs. I love kids. That's my natural habitat.
Sure.
But in that, I would occasionally get requests for either pet portraits or adding pets.
Mhm.
So, do you have a couple of tips for people like me that like I can tell you 50 tips for photographing kids, but
Sure.
I can narrow it down to a few. So, sorry, I'm babbling here. I think
No, it's
you know
okay.
where I'm going with it.
Just photographing dogs and pets is not that dissimilar to photographing small children. I've always said throughout my career that being a good photographer is, half artist and half psychologist, and figuring out who somebody is, how they want to be seen, which is not necessarily who they are, and who you need to be to get them there. And all of these things are amplified with children or pets, like figuring out who is the dog in front of me and how do I need to be in order to get the best results. Because dogs have a million different layers of training. Some of my rescue dogs have no human interaction, and some of them are aggressive or scared or shut down. Some
Mhm.
of them are overly excited, and some of them are just like all they want. I have one of my most difficult shoots sessions was not because the dog was aggressive, it's because the dog was obsessed with me and wanted to sit on my feet and be pet. Like anytime they brought it more than 3 feet away, it lost its mind. And I was like,
Huh.
okay, that's really sweet, but I can't photograph you when you're sitting on my feet. So it's just figuring out like what are the tricks that you need to use in order to get the best personality and the best realistic and flattering depiction of the soul of whatever's in front of you. So some of the tricks are for dogs, I use a ton of noises to get head tilts, to get the ears up, to get the look. A lot of them, I carry a full lanyard of noises. A lot of them are bird calls for hunters,
Hmm.
especially in New York. It is noise most of them have never heard before, so it gets them, what?
Like,
What just
huh?
happened? Um, but I carry like six of them because they're going to get used to it and over it really, really quickly. Squeaky toys, treats. I always greet a dog with treats, but I usually don't use treats throughout the session because the dogs get what I call treat face, where they're like, oh my God, a treat, a treat, a
Mhm.
treat. And that's all
Mhm.
they can focus on. And that's not really their personality. That doesn't show the soul of that dog. So
Right.
I will greet them so that the dog knows that I'm the source of good things, and then I'll put the treat away. I want to establish a relationship if I can. If it's not an aggressive dog that I'm allowed to, feed and pet and establish a relationship with. If I'm not allowed to pet that dog and that dog is not friendly, we are still probably going to start with treats, but I might throw the treats from a distance. I want that dog to know that I'm the source of good things and that I'm safe and that I have everything that they want.
Yeah.
The hardest thing is for telling the pet parents actually don't help me because that doesn't help me.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, don't help me at all. I want you to completely ignore both me and the dog. If I need your help, I will ask for it. And then photographing a variety throughout the session. I try to find a location that has a lot of variety, but without walking too far. A dog's attention span is about 45 minutes to an hour. And so I want to maybe be in Central Park or one location where it has a lot of interest so that I can get a wide variety because I'm photographing also for the sale. So I'm photographing a lot of my clients do image boxes or albums. So I need enough variety within that session in order to sell what they need to buy. So I don't often sell one wall portrait because that's not who my clients are. We have small apartments, small wall space. So I'm photographing more for products that show the experience of what we did. And so I need more variety in that session. Um,
So I have
I
to say,
always, last thing, I always want to include the people with the pets. I don't give people a choice.
yes.
Always increases my sale. And if somebody says, well, it's about the dog, I don't want to be in it. And I'll just say to them, listen, you don't have to choose it. Like I'm having
I
ADD
know.
because my dog's like finding a place on the couch.
Yeah, I'm
You don't
loving
have to
it.
choose the image of you and your dog. But in 10 years, I want an image of you with your dog to exist. And if you're
Yes.
anything like me, your phone is filled with pictures of your dog, but you don't have any good ones with you in
Mhm.
it. So this is your chance. Be camera ready because I will photograph you. And if you don't want to choose that as one you purchase, I don't care, but I want to have it so that later in life, if you feel the need to come back, I will have that.
I love
But
it.
everybody always purchases one.
Yes, of course.
So, yeah,
So similar to my kids' photography business. Um, and I talk about how much I wish there was a picture like I will be creating for them of my dad looking at me
right,
adoringly, or both of my parents with just
right,
me, where I feel safe and loved.
right.
And I always, say, and how you look today. 15 years from now, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I got that photograph because
Right.
none of us get any younger and most of us don't get any thinner. At
Well,
least,
and the thing is that one of the reasons that I love being a dog photographer versus being a portrait photographer for me is most of the time it removes that weird insecurity with people that gets so
yes.
draining as a photographer where everybody's saying, make me look good, don't make me look fat, don't make me mama mama mama. And
Mhm.
it's like, just be. Just
Mhm.
be in this moment who you are. Later down the road, if you lose weight, great, come back. We'll do something else. But like when it's photographing dogs, that just seems to go out the window, and
Mhm.
people just want a great photo of them with their dog.
I love it. I
And so it gets rid of a lot of that stuff that I found led to my burnout of being in front of portrait clients all day, every day. And I'm like, I can't deal with being everybody's therapist
right.
and being, the constant need for everybody to make me look good. It's
Yeah.
not about looking good. It's about being here now.
I think that's why I like photographing children, or like photographing
Right.
children up till like 5 is when they still are not so locked into the cheese. And I get discoveries of things I would never have thought of
Right.
because the kids are doing what they're doing. And I
Right.
imagine dogs are the same, where they're
Dogs
just being,
always show up as themselves without any artifice ever. And
yeah,
that's another wonderful part of doing it is like the dog you have in front of you, like there's purity in that. There's joy in that. There's just they are what they are and there's no artifice to any of it. And it's just a very refreshing place to be, having come from a place where all the other stuff came in. Like now it's just you and the subject and the joy of capturing who they are and their soul because there is no other thing.
yes.
Like that's all they bring to you.
Quick question. Do you find show dogs are more difficult? Because,
I find that crazy well trained dogs are a little bit on the more difficult side, only because they are super focused on their person
mhm.
versus me. So getting them to
Ah,
look at me and interact with me when they are very well trained to kind of like ignore all distractions because they're focused on their person is interesting. So that's again why it's so important for that owner to ignore the dog and to ignore me and allow me to establish that relationship right at the beginning
mhm,
of the session.
mhm. Well, oh my gosh, this has just been a treasure chest of wonderful information and I'm sure people are just inspired and excited to think about their marketing differently, or maybe even go into pet photography. I've, in my coaching that I really focused on for about 10 years, after my 30 years as a photographer, I helped several photographers start pet businesses and saw them thrive really quickly because of all the reasons that you're talking about. So, okay, so we're almost out of time.
If you do have further questions about anything pet photography related, I do have a Facebook group called Pet Portrait Pros. So you can feel free to join the group. It's pretty small. It's pretty intimate. There's not a lot going on there, but I'm happy to answer any questions or, critique any images or talk about what you want to do for marketing, whatever you want. That's pretty much it. You can
I
find me
love
there.
it. And your website is the
The
way,
website, yeah, the
what do you say?
website and the Instagram are both the Ways of the Dog. The website is thewaysofthedog.com, and then you can find me on Instagram at the Ways of the Dog.
So when I first saw it, I read the way soft the dog, and I was like, does she have a dog named Soft? Is this an esoterical Buddha? The ways soft of the dog? No, it's the
The
ways
Ways of the Dog.
of the dog. I love it, love it.
Mhm.
Okay, so I always give my guests a minute to just share a last minute thought, whatever that might be,
Mm.
with either something that you think, oh, I wish I had mentioned this, or just
Reiterating,
something that you want to have us think about.
I think as parting words or something that I would love for just photographers to think about is kind of the whole concept of what we've talked about the whole time is like just defining what makes you creative, what makes you happy, and knowing that there is a path for that no matter which direction you choose to go. You can create whatever reality you want for your business and for your life, and there will be a market for it. Now, doesn't mean it's going to come easy, doesn't mean it's just going to, show up. But I have found that throughout my life, the only time that I was in a rut or where I wasn't moving forward was when I had not made the decision on who I wanted to be and the direction I wanted to go. And
Mhm.
I found that every time that I've just decided, oh, I'm going here, then I have worked toward that goal and the universe has laid that path out before me.
I love it.
So I think it's just about defining what you want and then taking steps to achieve it.
Thank you for that. So, reminder people that I'll have a little bit of a wrap up after Jen and I have a minute to have our adieus. So, Jen, thank you, thank you, thank you for taking
Absolutely.
us to being on the show. I know people are going to let me know how much they've learned and how much they adore you. And
I love that. I'll take adoration. I love that.
absolutely. And you got to go look at her work and you'll understand why she's won umpteen million awards with her work and
Well,
many
thank you for
clients.
that. And thank you for having me. I'm always happy to whatever I can do to help.
You're welcome. All right. So, hello, hello again. I know I always say this, but I really did not want to stop the conversation with Jen. She is just a delight, and I love how a lot of the perspectives I have, we seem to have a lot of commonality. So I hope somewhere, somehow, I get to hang out with that wonderful woman. I know you've gotten so much out of the conversation. Let me see if I can summarize a little bit. So, step one, she said, of how to be successful is to research what's going on in your area, what pricing is. And when you find out who is the most expensive, be a little bit more than them because you want the perceived value. She also talks about how we need to sit down and really plan out how we want our life to be so that our business plan serves us. She talked about networking and networking in ways that are different than going to some networking group and like a Chamber of Commerce or BNI or something like that. That she gets out there photographing and contributing to organizations that are a part of her specialty that support for her dogs. She's not afraid of offering free sessions. I think a lot of them end up purchasing, but that's not always the case or the setup. Let's see. She said that some people think networking is where you're this extrovert that goes and, you know, gets on platforms and talks and so forth. And it's so different than that. And then she talked about sphere marketing, where we find 25 people that are in the world of the clients that we want, offering them a free session in exchange for contact information for 25 people that they know that might love what she does. And then she, there's different ways back earlier times when there was no internet, she would send greeting cards with the photograph of the client that she photographed for free to those people and with an offer of a session or a discount or something. Okay. Um, so she's saying we need to leverage other audiences that have the kind of people in it that we can and want to serve. All right. And then we did a little quick tips about pets. So I like that she said number one, figure out who this subject is, whether it's a pet or a human or whatever, and how to get the results you want because every dog, every human has their own temperament and their own, um, positive triggers. Practical, she has tricks like she's got treats, she's got noisemakers. She doesn't do treats all day or all session long, just enough to get on their good side. Number three is to keep the parents understanding that you don't need their help and it would actually get in the way, but I'm sure she does it in a super nice way. Number four, photograph variety for the sale as well as to make the people happy. And number five, always photograph the pet with the human. Even if they say they don't want it, she's really good at saying, well, you might want it later. You don't have to buy it, but I'm going to do it. All right. And then her parting thought was define what makes you creative and happy and discover the path for that. And then you can create the life you want. So thanks again. Go to lucydumascoaching.com if you want to have a 20-minute chat on anything, if you're interested in uh, a special session, if coaching might be something you're like, oh, I'm thinking maybe Lucy might be a coach I want, get in touch. That's it for now. Bye.